Late pledges are now available for all Kickstarter projects. This was something that they teased was coming and was in beta a few weeks ago. And like we've seen with many things that Kickstarter's been doing lately, the beta to live for all process has actually been going very quickly. And so Kickstarter's rolled out late pledges for all creators. And we now have a number of answers to some of the biggest questions that I raised in ComixLaunch session 457 about how this would work. And the big announcement is that it's different. It's different than you might have assumed it would work. And it's a little bit different than I assumed that it would work. And so what I want to do in this session here is break down the new feature and share some best practices for how to use it. So let's just first look at how Kickstarter announced this. Again, this is over at their features.kickstarter.com, but they say late pledges, more time, more money. Now backers can pledge to your project even after time is up. And there is a enable late pledges button on this announcement that will bring you right to your Kickstarter project's dashboard so that you can turn it on for projects. But how to get started with late pledges, Kickstarter says it's a simple three-step process, excuse me. Step one, enable late pledges for your project before its deadline has been reached. And so you have the option whether or not you want to turn on late pledges or not. Step two is then to determine which rewards are available after your deadline is over, and you can set that at the reward level. And then step three is you can let pledges roll until you're ready to fulfill, and you'll get weekly payouts. And Kickstarter will take that same 5% fee. There will also be a similar fee on the credit card back end. All right, so that is the basics here. There are more details in Kickstarter's how-to, and we'll dive into some of that a little bit. But what I want to share now is 4 surprising things about how Kickstarter's late pledges are working. All right, so these are the top 4 surprising things about late pledges. So thing number 1 is that late pledge support is only available for draft campaigns or live campaigns, but is not an available option for already completed campaigns. Okay, so this is something that wasn't clear in the initial announcement. And I know there are probably some creators that were like, oh, the Kickstarter is going to allow late pledges. Maybe they're thinking, well, right now, I'm linking people over to my website, but I'm not getting a lot of backers over there. So this campaign that maybe ended a couple months ago, maybe I will instead go turn on my late pledges and just, leave it open like a store over on Kickstarter, so that if people find my thing on my thing on Kickstarter, they can just pledge right there on Kickstarter, and I can make more pledges. And so I'm going to go and turn on late pledges for all of my past campaigns. It does not appear that that is how this is intended to work. It's not an option currently on completed campaigns. So if I go over to Sync Monsters, for example, this is one of my recent Kickstarter campaigns for Comics Tribe, you will see in order to turn on late pledges, I need to be able to edit my project, but this is a ended project, and in my dashboard, I do not have the ability to edit my project. I can only view my project and go to the dashboard, but I can't make any changes to my project. An important change that I would need to make is to enable late pledges, and I can't do that. So this is only something that is available for projects that are in draft mode or projects that are in live mode right now. So live projects. And we'll take a look at, we'll take a look at how this actually looks in Kickstarter and just some of the fine details of that in a minute. But what I want to do is just finish up my 4 big surprising things about how this all works. All right. So that was surprising thing number 1, though, that this is only for draft projects that have yet to launch and for projects that are currently live on Kickstarter. So if you do have a live project and you want to enable pledges, you can go ahead and do that. All right. Thing number 2 is that when toggled on, you will basically, when you toggle on and say, yes, I want to collect late pledges, additional settings will unlock in your reward tiers and in your add-ons. And it is in the reward and add-on section that you actually make all the key decisions about how you want your late pledges to. And you can set some of your pledges, all of your pledges, or you could even do only one reward and make that available as your post-launch late pledge reward. It's up to you how many you want to do, and you have a lot of control over that. So that's surprising thing number two. Surprising thing number three is that Kickstarter is pushing and recommending that you increase your late pledge amount, your late pledge costs for your rewards. And they suggest an increase of at least 10%. So that is something that is an interesting feature, that you actually have the ability to set a reward price for when it's live on Kickstarter, and then set a different price for that very same reward after the campaign is over. And we'll take a look at how that works. But they are encouraging you to do that, to bump the prices of your rewards after the campaign is over, presumably as a way to keep the momentum during your Kickstarter campaign, to make it clear that there is an advantage to be a Kickstarter backer and to get in while the campaign is live, which helps it helps to not diminish the specialness of a Kickstarter launch. And so Kickstarter recommends that. And then the fourth thing that was surprising and a little bit different than how BackerKit Pledge Manager or BackerKit pre-order stores work and some of the other pre-order stores work, and why and this also is something that makes this so that this is not exactly a replacement for some of those other tools out there, is that right now it seems that you must close your reward pledge and stop taking late pledges before you send your surveys for that reward tier. So this new feature is not an open-ended ongoing store that just lives on Kickstarter and continues to take pledges forever and ever and ever, akin to a BackerKit pre-order store, which you can keep open forever, or Indiegogo in demand, which presumably can your project open forever. It's not that. What Kickstarter's tool is saying is that after you send the surveys out, this thing is closed. And so we're not keeping this an open-ended store. We're actually keeping these are truly late pledge collections for that time between when the Kickstarter ends and when you are ready to collect all the information, send those surveys out, and move towards that next stage of fulfillment. That is completely different than what I had in mind and what a lot of creators had in mind about how this tool would work. And honestly, if I go back and look at some of my criticism for potential or the potential downside of this, well, that actually addresses a lot of the downside of this. One of the things that I was concerned about with Kickstarter doing this is just the diminishing of the specialness of a Kickstarter launch, and also the challenge or the problem of, if projects are just collecting potentially orders for forever, would that create the situation where the most popular projects, the biggest projects, the most funded projects that show up on Kickstarter are the same projects month after month after month, because these things just are juggernauts that keep going, and the new projects that are launching can't bust free because you've got these wildly popular projects that just become perennial sellers and take up a lot of the oxygen and the real estate on the Kickstarter platform. In the past, biggest project of all time launches, but when that campaign ends, well, that that campaign is not taking any more money, and it's not taking any oxygen away from that new independent project launched by a creator for their first time. And in that sense, on the Kickstarter platform, a first time creator launching its first project with a very small audience, well, that project actually has more fundraising potential on the Kickstarter platform than, Boom's latest massive multi-million dollar launch, right? So I was worried about, well, if this becomes essentially an evergreen store for projects, that could really change the way Kickstarter works and make it a little bit harder for the small creators. So this is not what they're, that's not, it seems like, at least right now, this is not creating that new store. It is literally just, there's an extended period of time between when the campaign ends and when you send that Kickstarter survey that you have to take in more funding. But there will be a definitive end point where you close it and then you fulfill, and it is done. So that was definitely interesting to me. And so I'm going to look at, or what I want to look at a little bit right now is just dive in a little bit more about what Kickstarter is saying about this stuff, some of the details, and then I want to look at how this actually looks in the Kickstarter platform and where it all is, how you set it up. And then I'm going to wrap by sharing 5 pro tips on how I think this works best. And I'll also share how I'm going to be using it. Ryan Clater asks, is it clear if turning this feature on eliminates this current availability of a button with an external link? So that that's a good question, Ryan. What I believe happens is if you turn this on, your page will continue to look like it looks when the Kickstarter campaign is live, in that the rewards are active. And so, yes, I believe you will not have a button that is externally linking out, but rather it will still be, back this project. So, and it won't be until you have closed taking late pledges that button will appear. But that's a really good question of just how that works dynamically, and I'm sure that's a lot that they had to figure out on the back end. So here we go. Just a little bit more detail from Kickstarter on this. I want to dive in and see the guidance that they're giving, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on that. But how do I add late pledges to my project? To add late pledges to your project, you will first need to enable this in the Basics tab of your project editor. So again, for projects that are already over, you can't do anything. This is only for live projects or projects that are in draft mode. And you will see, if you go to your basics, here's a project that I'm working on, the new issue of Epic. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see introducing late pledges. Backers can now continue to pledge your campaign after it is successfully funded. And so you see toggle, no, don't enable late pledges. Backers will only be able to pledge to your project until it reaches its deadline. Or yes, enable late pledges. Backers will be able to pledge for rewards configured to be available beyond campaign deadline. You'll configure rewards to be available for late pledges when creating them. So I'm going to hit save on that, and that will take you to the next tab, is rewards. Okay. So it says, once late pledges are enabled in the Basics tab, head to Rewards tab and start creating your rewards. You'll see some additional settings for each reward tier and add-on, which includes setting a late pledge amount. And this is the price that they'll pay for that specific reward after the campaign is over. And they recommend an increase of 10% for late pledges. And then you will also determine when the reward will be available for and how long. You will actually choose when it will start and end, as well as a setting on whether or not the reward will end on or after your campaign deadline. It also says you need to enable at least one reward for late pledges when your campaign ends if you toggle on that late reward. It says, please note that your late pledges must be enabled when your project is in draft or while your campaign is still live. After the campaign has ended, it will no longer be possible to enable late pledges. Okay. So this is something that if you want this option and your project is live and ending today, you got to hurry up and get this set up. Otherwise, you may be out of luck. So when we go to rewards, I haven't set up any rewards for this in development project yet, but you will see I've got rewards here. I've got this toggled on, and now because this is toggled on, I have a new section in my rewards for configure late pledges. It says you've enabled late pledges, which means you can set when your rewards should be available, for how long, and after your campaign ends. Please note late pledges will only activate if your project is successfully funded. So again, this is not an option for creators that maybe reach 70% funded but don't hit the deadline. Enabling late pledges will not give you a chance to keep going. This is only something for projects that fund. So in late pledges, it said, when would you like this reward to be made available? This reward becomes available at the start of your campaign, when my campaign ends, or custom date. Okay, so you actually have the ability to create pledge levels that only activate once your campaign is over, or you have the ability to configure your pledge levels that or existing pledge levels. You can sort of do double duty where they are a pledge level that carries over until the campaign ends. And so you now have this new setting down here that you can this is sort of determining the start point and the end point. And this is something that you could do previously on Kickstarter. You could determine when a reward was started and when a reward stopped or ended. Those are sort of limited time rewards. That was a feature that you could always do. What is new here is that you can now extend this beyond the campaign. And so when would you like this reward to stop being available? Your options are when my campaign ends, when I manually end this reward's availability, or a custom date and time. Okay. So I will probably, when I'm setting this up, I'm probably for rewards that I want to be available after the campaign is over. I'm probably going to use this when I manually end this reward's availability. This reward will be available for late pledging until you decide to manually end it. I like that. I don't want to, there's always a chance that my survey might go out later than expected, or something might happen, something might come up, or something might sell really well, or you go viral on social and post-launch pledges are better than expected. You might want to keep it open. I like just clicking this and having the control of, hey, it's going to stay open until I say it's not going to, until I say it's going to close. All right. And so you have the ability to sort of set this up and save that. I'm looking at, so here's the other big difference over here. Just, test. You have the ability to set the pledge amount, so $10, and then late pledge amount. And interestingly enough, Kickstarter automatically does some math for you and suggests a price for your late pledge amount that is about 10% higher than what your pledge price is. So, if your pledge amount was 50 in the late pledge, it ghosts a suggestion of about $56. So you do not have to make your late pledge amount more than what's on Kickstarter, but Kickstarter is recommending that you do bump the price a little bit to keep your Kickstarter backers that support during the campaign to reward them. So that is an interesting little feature there. And it's nice that they just have that set up right there so that you can set prices in that way. So that is how you do it with late pledges, how you set it up on Kickstarter. And you'll have to do this for all of your rewards. You will also, it's okay, continue. If you click on your add-ons, you'll notice that all of your add-ons also have this new late pledge amount and pledge amount pricing, as well as a configure late pledges button. So this is going to add a little bit of time to setting up your Kickstarter project pages, because you're going to have a couple more boxes to check, a couple more decisions to make, but it is something that will definitely be available for all creators and is definitely a game changer on the platform. A few more details the Kickstarter shares. What are the fees for late pledges? Fees collected on late pledges, same as those collected on original campaign pledges. Kickstarter will collect 5% fees plus payment processing fee of roughly 3 to 5%. So same deal there. And then the last question, how long can I accept late pledges for? How long you wish to accept late pledges is entirely up to you. However, When you are ready to send your surveys or begin fulfillment for a specific reward, you will need to end late pledges for that reward. We will also recommend that you end late pledges if your project hasn't received any late pledges for 30 days. After ending late pledges for a reward, it won't be possible to re-enable. So it is a all or nothing decision there. Once that late pledges ends, that's the end of it. Now, here's one special case caveat that I'm interested in, and I'm not really sure how this will be handled. But what if you are using BackerKit Pledge Manager for your surveys? Well, if you're using BackerKit Pledge Managers for your surveys, but you never send the Kickstarter survey, presumably you could keep your late pledges open indefinitely, right? For most of my campaigns for the last 20 plus campaigns, have not used the Kickstarter survey at all. I don't send them. I use an external survey tool like BackerKit Pledge Manager. I've used Pledge Manager's tool. In the old days, I used CrowdOx before it merged with BackerKit. And so I don't send my Kickstarter surveys. I don't use those. And so presumably that's sort of like a loophole to having the ability to keep your late pledges open for forever. But I guess one of my questions is that, it says, we will recommend that you end late pledges if your project hasn't received any late pledges for 30 days. I'm wondering if that actually triggers a notice from Kickstarter, if they have that programmatically, or if that is just a best practice that they're suggesting. So there are some questions about logistics, about how this is going to tie into other tools that I'm going to dive into. All right. So let me check some comments. We got my pal John Kratke just wrapped up a launch. He says, I like it because I'm a fence sitter on campaigns and sometimes I sit too long. Now I can still support. I'm my own worst enemy. I don't know about that, John. You just might be a little frugal or busy as a creator, and we can't always support every project, but it definitely will. I think we will see projects, the window of just missing campaigns. Well, that might be something that most projects going forward, we don't have to worry about that. It's also the nice thing is that it will take away that excuse that every crowdfunder has heard from people in your world who, after you're done promoting your Kickstarter campaign, and screaming about it for the high heavens for months and months and months, and then the campaign ends and you're exhausted, and then somebody says, "Hey, man, when are you launching that project? I really want to back it." Well, now you can say, "Go back it, man. Here's the link," even though it ended 3 days ago. You can still do that. Okay, so the one other thing that I want to show you on Kickstarter that is a change, and this is another thing that I was curious about how this was going to work, is how is this going to change how Kickstarter report the funding that it sends to you? And so in the past, when you click on your Kickstarter dashboard for past projects, you will see something that looks like this. And so I'm pulling up a past project. Now, this is not a project that had this late pledges feature turned on, but it is a project that is a past project. And you'll see that if you want to get all the details on your funding, including the breakdown of your payments or to get an invoice from your Kickstarter, there's a button that says click View Funding Summary. Now, when you click on View Funding Summary, this is actually a new page. In the past, it would bring up a page that had all the details about your singular payment and payout from Kickstarter. Prior to this, Kickstarter would only send one payout per project. One payment 2 weeks after your campaign is over to your bank account that's associated with your Kickstarter. That was what Kickstarter would pay you. But with late pledges announced, this means that Kickstarter needs to be able to pay you multiple times and do multiple payouts. And so there's a new projects payouts page that presumably you will see these payouts show up, and you will see your first payout, which will be from the campaign itself, and then presumably you will see payouts in numerical fashion going forward that are related to post-launch payouts. So if you want all the details on your payout, you now have to click again, and this will show you on a per payout basis what this looks like. And so that is just a small change, not clear. And I did not see in the Q&A how soon after a new late pledge order comes in, will that be paid out by Kickstarter? Is it 2 weeks after? Do they, do a one payout every week and do it on a weekly basis and roll up however many late pledges come in per week? Is it per 2 weeks? Is it per month? I don't have that information yet. And so I will be checking out and hopefully update this once that information is clear. But that's how you're going to be able to see the late pledges show up in your campaigns post your Kickstarter. Okay. So we've been talking late pledges. We've been talking about this new feature, which is available now for all creators on the Kickstarter platform. I want to wrap things up with some of my pro tips on how I will use this feature. I would also like to hear, if you're watching, if you're tuning in, what are your thoughts? What do you like about it? Were you surprised at anything that Kickstarter announced? Is there something that you want to see it do that it can't do? Is this something that you're going to turn on? How are you going to approach this? Will this change how you interact and set up your Kickstarter campaigns? I am curious about that. But here are my 5 pro tips on late pledges that are now available for Kickstarter creators. So pro tip number 1, yes, definitely turn it on. I believe that compared to linking out to an external website, whether that is your website or a BackerKit pre-order page or your own Shopify site or a PayPal button, however you are taking late pledges post a campaign on Kickstarter, I believe that taking pledges right there on Kickstarter will convert better than redirecting people to an external link. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, if they're on Kickstarter, chances are they're already logged on to Kickstarter, which means the checkout process is as easy as a click or two. And that is different than if they have to go somewhere else, log into a different account, create a different account, check out with a credit card, upload payment information, pull up PayPal, do whatever. Like, they're already logged in on Kickstarter. It's a frictionless environment to take their money. And you can presume that if they're on Kickstarter, they understand that they're more likely to understand how Kickstarter works. And so it's a no-brainer. I would definitely turn this on because I think compared to other ways that you might take late pledges, this is going to convert higher than others. And Oliver 656, what's up, Oliver? He says, yes, I will definitely use late pledges. So I'm with you, Oliver. My second pro tip is streamline and simplify your campaign for post-launch. I see a lot of campaigns out there that have just dozens and dozens and dozens of rewards, especially some of the not safe for work campaigns. One thing that you're going to have after the campaign is over is and near the end of the campaign is you're going to have a lot of data on what are the most popular pledge levels, what pledge levels are people really resonating with them, what are they not resonating with. And I believe after a campaign is over, it's probably a good time to cull the herd and just give a small number of options for the pledge levels so that it's a very streamlined experience. And also so that people aren't hunting through the campaign and then also maybe comparing different pledge levels to what they were priced during the campaign. Sometimes that can be something that might throw them off, especially if the price is a little bit more. So I would go with a streamlined, smaller set of the most popular pledge levels and have those be your pledge tiers. One of the reasons that you can do that and probably not lose any sales or many sales at all is that you can also make all of your add-ons available as after the campaign is over. So if you streamline and simplify your pledge tiers, but still let all of the add-ons be available, well, they can actually customize their pledges afterwards, but it will look a lot cleaner on the page post campaign. So make it simple, stick to your most popular pledges. keep all or most of the add-ons so that they can still customize their pledges. And then I would also say, like, if there were certain, if you and your marketing leaned into something being, hey, this is a Kickstarter exclusive or this is a time-based exclusive, honor that. Like, make sure that people that Kickstarter backers don't feel disincentivized for backing during the campaign or taking action when they did. Honor that. All right. Pro tip number 3 is boost your prices. Boost your prices. Your backers will appreciate it, and late backers probably won't even notice it. And as you know, John mentioned, sometimes he's a fence sitter and sometimes he sits too long and misses campaigns. The ability to back a project and get in on a Kickstarter project after the campaign is over might be a relief to some backers, and such that they'll say, oh, you know what, I missed the best possible deal, but at least I'm still getting in and getting this, so I don't mind paying an extra 10% surcharge or whatnot. And so I think boosting your prices post campaign is probably a good idea. It still keeps the primacy and the importance of supporting during the Kickstarter and rewards your Kickstarter backers, but it also lets you keep taking funding after the campaign is over. And even a $1 or $2 bump for some of your pledge levels, hey, that's enough of incentive to keep it right. So that is number 3, boost your prices on your late pledge rewards. Number 4 is that I suggest you run it for a minimum of 2 weeks and do that while Kickstarter does its thing. Now, we know that in most cases, for a lot of campaigns, Kickstarter is, for the first week after your campaign is over, there's going to be errored pledges that Kickstarter was unable to collect. And you want, and I want Kickstarter the ability to do that work, right? So that's going on in the background. So that's a good time to be taking these late pledges as well. And then also there's another week before Kickstarter sends you out the funds, such that you get the funds in your bank account, et cetera. And so bare minimum, I would say that 2-week window post Kickstarter campaign should be your pre-order window or late pledge window. For campaigns that maybe you won't fulfill for a longer time, well, extending that late pledge window would definitely be something that might make sense. But I would say 2 weeks is probably the best time to do that. Also, it's that initial 2 weeks after the campaign is over that you're probably going to get the highest amount of post launch traffic. You know, I looked at one of my latest campaigns and we had 184 people visit my Kickstarter page in the 2 weeks after that campaign was over, even though I drove no traffic intentionally to that page. But that's people seeing social media posts late. That's people hearing about it. That's people discovering it. That's people, clicking old emails, etc. 184 users during that 2-week period post the Kickstarter campaign being over. Presumably, some of those users would have backed had they sought out our Kickstarter campaign, gone to that page, and been able to click that link and back really easily. And so this is kind of downtime post most for the way most creators run their campaigns anyway. So it seems like a no-brainer time to just like, hey, yeah, we'll collect some additional pledges while that's going on. All right. And then my 5th pro tip is that you're going to want to close down all of your pledge rewards when you are ready to send your surveys. And that's whether you're using Kickstarter or you're still using an external survey tool like BackerKit's survey tool. And so that is something that is probably how you're going to want to approach it. Now, there are some questions that I have, and this could get a little dicey because this is sort of changing how these tools have always been used. And so I'm not entirely sure how or if this change over on Kickstarter to allow late pledges, how that will integrate and affect working with BackerKit. If you are still sticking with BackerKit Pledge Manager for your surveys after the campaign is over. And even though Kickstarter announced that they will be revamping their survey. That revamp is not live, and that revamp also still, as far as I know, will not go that extra step of making it very, very easy to do upsells and additional add-ons when you send the survey. So as far as I'm concerned, right now, as of May 22nd, using BackerKit Pledge Manager is still a must use for most bigger crowdfunding campaigns, because it can do things and we will raise money that the Kickstarter survey will not, even if Kickstarter is allows taking late pledges. And so I'm not clear about how this is going to work. Like, I'm not clear like how late pledges will be integrated with BackerKit, whether BackerKit will continually pull late pledges as they come in. Is it designed to do that, or was it designed to pull your backers once? Does it have to constantly be updated? It's not clear if late backers will get imported, or if somehow if you send your BackerKit survey, but then a late backer comes through Kickstarter, how will that person get a survey? So there's some edge cases and some interesting things to solve. I think that BackerKit will need to do some work, and Kickstarter will need to do some work potentially, or at least provide some guidance for how this is all going to work. And so I don't have all of those answers. I will be seeking those out. But what my plan and how I'm going to plan to utilize this, but also not throw out what has worked very well for me across campaigns, is my plan is I'm going to activate BackerKit, or excuse me, I'm still going to use BackerKit for my pledge surveys, but I am going to activate Kickstarter late pledges for some rewards and most, if not all, add-ons. I'm going to raise prices for some or all of the pledge levels and add-ons so that I'm honoring my Kickstarter backers as getting the best deal. I'm going to take pre-orders or take late pledges for at least 2 weeks after the campaign is over, which is usually the time that I am letting Kickstarter do its thing and collect air pledges and collect all of the money and then transfer it to me. So 2 weeks after the campaign is over, I'll take those late pledges on Kickstarter. And then when I'm close to or ready to send that BackerKit survey, I'm going to close down my late pledge rewards on Kickstarter. I'm assuming by turning them off, I will then have that redirect button available on my Kickstarter page that I can then send people to my BackerKit pre-order store after my late pledge period is over and after I close those down. And then I will take orders as I have been doing after that. So that's how I'm going to approach. I still will need to confirm with BackerKit how those edge cases might work, and to make sure that that late pledges are still being imported into BackerKit after the campaign has ended. So that's one thing that I still need to discover. So that is my plan. That's what I'm going to do going forward. Curious to hear how y'all are going to approach this as well. Nathan Blanchard asked, might be a stupid question, but do you have to reach goal for it to work? I'm new to Kickstarter. Nathaniel, not a stupid question, especially if you're new to Kickstarter. Yes, this is a feature for successful campaigns that want to collect additional funding. This is not a feature that failed campaigns can turn on so that they can maybe hit their goal, but just need more time. Kickstarter's not playing that game, but this is a way that the successful campaigns that hit 100% funded can collect some additional funding after the campaign is over. Nathaniel, I will also point out, if you are new to Kickstarter and you want some additional support around this, I would encourage you, head over to comixlaunch.com/class. I've got a 1-hour masterclass where I break down the 4 steps to a successful comic book Kickstarter launch, opportunities for you to ask questions, Q&A, the whole 9. It's a great place for newbies and for creators that are just getting started on their creative journeys to make Kickstarter work for you. And so, yeah, I'd love to share some of what I've learned from successfully launching over 35 successful campaigns, raising over $1 million in funding on the crowdfunding platforms to get things rolling. And I'm excited, Kickstarter has announced a new vision for the next 15 years. And I think it's a great time actually to be a brand new creator on Kickstarter.